A bank security guard just made the biggest mistake of his life, insulting Keanu Reeves. But what happened next shocked everyone in the room. You won't believe how Keanu Reeves reacted when a security guard insulted him in public. This will restore your faith in humanity. It was a crisp autumn morning in downtown Los Angeles. The city was alive with its usual hustle and bustle, but inside the sleek glass doors of First National Bank, things were calm. The bank had just opened, and a handful of customers were scattered around the lobby waiting for their turn at the teller windows. Among them was a man who stood out, not because of his appearance, but because of the quiet, unassuming energy he carried. It was Keanu Reeves. Keanu had stopped by the bank to handle some personal business. Dressed in a simple black jacket, jeans, and a pair of well-worn boots, he looked like any other customer. He wore a baseball cap pulled low over his face, but his unmistakable presence still drew a few curious glances. Despite his fame, Keanu preferred to keep a low profile, and he was hoping to get in and out without causing a scene. At the entrance of the bank, a security guard named Carl was stationed at his post. Carl was a burly man in his late 40s, with a stern expression and a no-nonsense attitude. He took his job seriously, perhaps a little too seriously. Carl had been working as a security guard for over a decade, and over the years, he'd developed a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He was the kind of guy who believed respect had to be earned, and he wasn't impressed by fame or fortune. As Keanu approached the entrance, Carl stepped forward, blocking his path. "Hold up," Carl said, his voice gruff. "I need to check your bag." Keanu stopped, surprised but polite. "Of course," he said, handing over his small backpack. "No problem." Carl took the bag and began rifling through it, his movements deliberate and slow. He pulled out a notebook, a water bottle, and a few other personal items, inspecting each one as if he were searching for contraband. Keanu waited patiently, his hands in his pockets, his expression calm. "You know," Carl said, his tone laced with sarcasm, "just because you're some big-shot celebrity doesn't mean you get special treatment here. Rules are rules." Keanu nodded. "I understand. I'm happy to comply." Carl narrowed his eyes, clearly unimpressed by Keanu's humility. "Yeah, sure. You Hollywood types are all the same. Think you can just waltz in anywhere and get whatever you want. Well, not on my watch." Keanu's expression remained neutral, but a flicker of confusion crossed his face. He wasn't sure why Carl was being so hostile, but he wasn't about to escalate the situation. "I'm just here to take care of some banking," he said calmly. "I don't want any trouble." Carl snorted. "Trouble? You're the one who thinks you're above the rules. I've seen your movies, you know, all that action hero stuff. Bet you think you're pretty tough, huh?" Keanu shook his head. "It's just acting. I'm just a regular guy." "Yeah, right," Carl muttered, handing the bag back to Keanu. "Go on then. But don't think you're getting any special treatment." Keanu took his bag and nodded. "Thank you. Have a good day." As Keanu walked further into the bank, Carl watched him go, his arms crossed over his chest. He couldn't put his finger on why, but Keanu's calm demeanor irked him. Maybe it was because he was used to people reacting to his gruffness with fear or anger. Keanu's quiet politeness was something he wasn't used to, and it made him uncomfortable. Inside the bank, Keanu approached a teller and began his transaction. The teller, a young woman named Emily, recognized him immediately but kept her composure. She couldn't believe Keanu Reeves was standing in front of her, and she was determined to be professional. "Good morning, Mr. Reeves," she said with a smile. "How can I help you today?" Keanu returned the smile. "Good morning. I just need to make a deposit and check my account balance." As Emily processed his request, she couldn't help but glance at Carl, who was still standing at the entrance, glaring in their direction. She knew Carl had a reputation for being difficult, and she wondered if he'd said something to Keanu. She decided not to bring it up, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Meanwhile, Carl was stewing. He couldn't understand why Keanu hadn't reacted to his insults. Most people would have gotten defensive or angry, but Keanu had just taken it in stride. It didn't sit well with Carl, and he found himself growing more and more agitated. After finishing his transaction, Keanu thanked Emily and turned to leave. As he walked back toward the entrance, Carl stepped in front of him again. "Hold on," Carl said, his voice sharp. "I need to check your bag again." Keanu paused, his brow furrowing slightly. "I just went through this. Is there a problem?" Carl crossed his arms. "Yeah, there's a problem. I don't trust you. You think you're so special, but you're not. You're just another customer. And I'm not letting you walk out of here without following protocol." Keanu took a deep breath, his patience wearing thin. "Look, I don't know what your issue is, but I've done nothing wrong. I've complied with your requests, and I've been nothing but respectful. If there's a problem, let's talk to your manager." Carl's face turned red. "You think you can just waltz in here and tell me how to do my job? I don't care who you are. You're not above the rules." By now, the other customers in the bank were starting to notice the commotion. Emily, the teller, quickly picked up the phone and called for the manager. She could see that things were escalating, and she didn't want the situation to get out of hand. The manager, a middle-aged man named Mr. Thompson, hurried over. "What's going on here?" he asked, his tone firm but calm. Carl pointed at Keanu. "This guy thinks he's above the rules. He's trying to leave without letting me check his bag." Keanu shook his head. "That's not true. I already went through the bag check when I came in. I don't understand why I'm being singled out." Mr. Thompson looked from Carl to Keanu, his expression thoughtful. "Mr. Reeves, I apologize for the inconvenience. Carl, is there a specific reason you need to check his bag again?" Carl hesitated, his face flushing. I just don't trust him. He's a celebrity. He probably thinks he can get away with anything." Mr. Thompson sighed. "Carl, that's not a valid reason to detain a customer. Mr. Reeves has been nothing but cooperative. Unless you have a legitimate concern, I suggest you let him go." Carl clenched his fists, his pride wounded. "Fine," he muttered, stepping aside. Keanu nodded to Mr. Thompson. "Thank you. I appreciate your help." As Keanu walked out of the bank, Carl watched him go, his jaw tight with anger. He couldn't believe he'd been overruled in front of everyone. He felt humiliated, and he blamed Keanu for it. Later that day, Carl's shift ended, and he headed home, still fuming. He couldn't stop thinking about the encounter, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He decided to vent his frustrations online, posting a rant on social media about how entitled celebrities thought they were above the law. To his surprise, the post went viral. People were outraged that someone would treat Keanu Reeves so disrespectfully, and Carl found himself at the center of a firestorm. News outlets picked up the story, and soon Carl was being bombarded with messages from angry fans. But what Carl didn't expect was Keanu's response. Instead of lashing out or ignoring the situation, Keanu took the high road. In an interview, he was asked about the incident, and he simply said, "Everyone has bad days. I don't hold any ill will toward the security guard. I hope he's doing okay." Carl was stunned. He couldn't believe Keanu had responded with such kindness and grace. It made him realize how petty and small-minded he'd been. He felt ashamed of his behavior and decided to make things right. The next day, Carl went to the bank and asked to speak with Mr. Thompson. He apologized for his actions and explained that he wanted to make amends. Mr. Thompson agreed to give him a second chance, but only if he attended sensitivity training and worked on his attitude. Carl also reached out to Keanu through a mutual contact and offered a heartfelt apology. To his surprise, Keanu accepted it without hesitation. "We all make mistakes," Keanu said. "What matters is that we learn from them and grow." From that day forward, Carl made a conscious effort to be kinder and more understanding. He realized that respect wasn't something you demanded. It was something you earned through your actions. And he had Keanu Reeves to thank for teaching him that valuable lesson. What do you think of Keanu Reeves' reaction? Let us know in the comments below. If you loved this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more amazing content. Would you have reacted the same way as Keanu? Drop your thoughts in the comments.